Hello, welcome to the Dream Labs, Dr. Contrast. Boy, it's good to be back on board today, gang. And I just thought I'd give you a quick heads up here. Really regret the fact that a couple of days ago, two sessions ago, we had real difficulties with the microphone. I was cranking away at it, and thank goodness for people who were watching the series or the stream tuned in and said that the mic wasn't working at all, wasn't functioning. So very sorry for the inconvenience of that. Then, of course, on Tuesday, I had a series of appointments with my wife, so had to take care of that, doctor's appointment. So here we are back live and in color. And good news is, thanks to people like Shadow Man, who is really a digital genius in terms of putting pieces together, came in and solved the microphone problem. So we're all good to go and firing away at it. And I thought we'd just kind of pick it up where we left off a couple of sessions ago, trying to wrap up this e-motorcycle livery concept. We've gone through the logo studies, we've gone through some line studies for that direction, which I'll show you at the end of the program here, and some of the some of the final design sketches on that. But the livery is a different matter. This is the actual speed bike itself. This is the actual vehicle that they're working on to manufacture and fabricate. So that's the line study I did, and I just want to go through very quickly some of the very initial quick starts on where we were with the actual livery starts here. So this is just a real fast, really quick concept sketches based on getting some of the color schemes down. Same composition. And I think the bigger thing that I was really trying to work through with the whole process was when it all came together, really looking at keeping things simple enough, but yet bold enough, and yet traditional in many ways. For example, sponsorship locations and matters like that. You get more real estate to work with, rather than flooding it all with color, letting some of the vehicle breathe a little bit to give it some relief. So there was one sketch there, another sketch here, another variation on the theme. Again, very diagonal, a very bold, aggressive looking stance on this thing. And again, room for real estate for demarcations or logo graphics and the like. And so that was the third set we did. And came back along with this one and moved into this. Again, very simple, very sheer in one sense. And again, another variation of the theme where it's very organic. So we're trying to keep enough interchange and enough direction of change and enough impact from sketch to sketch or theme to theme that they can make some choices on and put together the one that they want. Or else they can revise some things too. I don't know what they're going to do with this in terms of the final decision, but I think it's worthwhile noting that we're going to keep enough latitude in some of the color systems here and variations on theme of the color to give them some latitude to put all the information in that they need once the thing goes to fly in the salt flats and so forth. And another variation, a little bit more organic, a little bit more out of the ordinary shape here with a very fluid form. Going back into it, and again, a lot of body color here, but still room for designation of sponsorships and the like. So that's pretty applicable. There we are there. And the last one I completed prior. Oh, excuse me. I think there's a couple more here. Yeah, that's not it. My hands got stuck. There we go. So that's one. Another one here is again very bold, black and silver. If it could be, for example, the gray could be silver. It could be an off-white. Again, very different. But again, keeping things simple. A little bit more aggressive with this one. I'd like to tighten down the electrification symbol there, maybe twist it a little bit and stretch it a bit more so it's a little closer coupled so it's not so abstract. But again, another variation of theme. And last but not least, the last one, again, very organic, very fluid, round form, kind of take away from the shape, kind of mirror what's happening, or reflect what's taking place up front in the cockpit area and bring that back into the vehicle itself. So again, another sheer variation on theme, getting more electrified piece in it to kind of symbolize that just a bit. And again, keeping it open for things, for example, could be for manufacturers, sponsorship pieces, promotional pieces, and the like. And this, if I were to do this again, I'd do a little bit more curve to this front piece here to kind of match the windscreen gamma. So that's where I started, and I've added some more to that. So let me kind of gather these up a little bit and get them out of the way, and bring this pad into play. Here we're going to go through color studies here. This is interesting because I started last week, for example, going through these livery sketches, and I started here. This is the one I started with last session that we were on board on the air with, and I had to stop because there was no conversation going back and forth on the sound system here. So I'm going to pick up where I left off and just adding some little graphics and some color systems to this thing. So let's kind of get this thing started here and just go through some livery sketches, and we'll move it on here. See what happens. Let's come back in here and just get some of this stuff lined in here. Interesting too to kind of look at something like this because it's so They could go another direction. Maybe it just might end up just being all body color. I'm not sure what their intent is, but they wanted some variation on theme, and obviously some graphic variations on that theme to see what we could do with this shape. And it might end up being very, very different. We'll get some feedback, hopefully once we get these sketches submitted here the first part of the week, or maybe tomorrow. Get them down there and have them evaluate them and make some decisions based on what they see. And let's go back in here, just take it nice and simple. Let's go back and get this graphic squared away here. Oops, what was that? Let's get this other spike in place here. Take it that far and find a boom, boom. And I kind of get some of those tight areas in place so I don't flood it all up here. Loops to work. Do this, stop right there for a moment. Let me use this pen. Get a nice fine line back in through here. First of all, let's bring this canopy off here. Take this back, finish that spear. Some more length to it. Kind of turn this around here and finish that spear as well. Then we'll kind of come in and fill some of the graphics with the larger marker. Get nice and safe. The rest of this body form, you go very simple. Let's get a little bit of this in place. Wheel graphics, just get it started. Well, let's do this. Let's get a little bit of a nice tone gray in this thing. It's silver, what this starts to look like. Let's break up the body form just a bit. Nice and delicate. Corner. Again, leave that as almost a nice, even a lighter, almost just enough touch in there to kind of get that to come through. Possibly, let's see here. Let's go to a lighter tone here. Get this body color to work through just a bit. Horizon in this thing, almost like a body color reflection, not so much a paint color, or graphic, or an overlay, or a wrap. Just a nice little, maybe it's a lighter color too. It could be a lighter, dark gray, silver. What that does. And if that's the case, it'll be a little bolder. The second band here. Let's see what happens there. Gray could almost go down to a nice solid 5, a little deeper. There you go. A little bit of distinction in there. And bring it back around. Touch on this side just to kind of bring it through. There we are. Just kind of bring that scallop through. That's interesting little simple format there, but I think it gets the job done in terms of bringing the pieces together. And let's put a little bit of wheel graphics in this thing too. A bit of offset. Darker shadow in here. And maybe a little body color too. So let's take this thing, a little bit more red in this thing. Maybe the rims, the racing surface are nice and bright red. And there it is there, another little study. Come back in and get some graphics up on the windshield here. Put that in place here. Bolder in some areas. And again, up on top, same thing. A little bolder. Follow through with that. And maybe just a touch of black. And throw it in sequence here. Good. Again, and through here, be consistent in it. The glass itself. Well, there's one variation right there. So I'll let that kind of rest for a little bit here. Let's get these out of the way. And let's move on to another study. I'll go back and review these when we finish up the rest of the day here. So there's one. Let me get one. Another variation here. It could be kind of dramatic, a little bolder in scale. So that might be kind of nice to kind of work with here. Bolder in scale. So put that aside here. And here we are. Let's get this guy lined up. Variation number 2. Let's go back in and look at this thing. Let's get this guy really some strong, bold graphics on this thing. Let's take this through. Put more of that theme here. Staying that in. And catch just enough of this coming through on the other side. Kind of follow it through. Run it through. There. And tail graphics. That follows that form through. Again. And get the following here to work with us. There we are. Go back and get this guy to kind of crank in here for us. Real bold red. Bring that through. Even tone of that come right through the form here. Lie down for just a moment, catch these corners. Nice and controlled. Again, a little double red here. Let's see what happens if we can put this into play here. Fade off a little bit here. And again, come back in with just maybe just a real light gray, just enough to kind of dust through this shape here. Bolder here with this thing. 3 here. Kind of run a little bit. That's better. Green accent silver, bring that on through. And again, a little bit of a base work down below to get this guy to kind of crank for us just a bit here. Reflection. Real graphics in here. Put a ground on that guy, and that's it. Just moving this in the canopy. Well, set up here. High contrast in this guy. Here we are. And just a touch of black. Drop it in there a little bit. That. Let's see if we can get a little bit of some pen graphics here to get this guy to work here. There we are. 5 here. Oops. There we go. Past that skin. There we go. There's another variation on theme here. This guy. Variation there. Some of his corners tightened up a little bit. Back in there around the foot to the heel area to follow that shape through just a touch. There it is. Fill that in. There it is. This overall, they've got a very, very solid, exciting program here to work with. I just want to make sure we deliver some of the real sensitivities. Let me just do this too, so I don't get those too much during that point, just to get that started in there. We'll fill in the blanks. That corner setup. There we are. Staying in this thing now. It's a bit of a public decision in a way, because you want to keep the interest, the form, for example, some of the roundness and some of the shapes that are involved in the vehicle itself, but at the same time, add some counterpoint so it doesn't all become so static in terms of just being another paint scheme with another variation on it here. So let's do this. We're going to really get bold with this. A lot of body color in this guy. And as I said earlier, the team can kind of decide whether they want to go simpler with it, bolder with it. They'll be the final, obviously the final say. I want to give them enough variation to be able to work with it and say, oh yeah, these work, this does not. Let's go back and look at something like this. Let's do what you've got here. That's all part of the game plan. Not a problem. There we are. Put this upside down for a moment. A little more direct down in the base here. And last but not least, let's kind of throw in some of these guys. Stripes and use a pencil to get a little bit of variation in there. It doesn't flood it all up. Same angle. Same angle. And there's phase number 2. That's kind of a simple, bold shot at it, but it's had some interesting graphics to it. I think it's pretty minimal, but again, I think sustainable here. So let's go back in and get another little bit of windscreen graphics in this thing. And again, graphics. Open this thing here. And a little bit of darkness and boldness in the glass here. We've got it. Well, there's another variation very quickly here. Let's put a little bit of tone in this thing so I can get another real light tint on this thing for body color down below. Yeah, that's not bad. We'll skip a little bit of color there, but that's okay. Either white or bright silver. That could be kind of interesting too. Just a very gleaming look. This lower piece here. That could be interesting. So there's a little blender study down below there on phase 2. That's another little quick study here on some of the shapes and graphics we're dealing with for this final livery series. Let's put these aside for a moment. There's 1 and 2. And the next one on board here, we'll keep moving here. It's going to be really interesting. So if we go, where am I here? Let's get this thing started here with this cap in place. Very, very bold up front with this paint scheme here. Get this borders in place. Now let's go back there and get this. Very, very boldly put together, almost high contrast right from the get-go. That thing in. Very bold. Good quick start here. It's going to make this statement count here. Really solid color with this thing. This might be a little bit more aggressive in terms of use of paint graphics or vinyl or wrap of some sort, but at least it gives them an opportunity to make a couple of bold statements with this thing. Goes through the livery process. Like marker too, just see if this thing some good juice in it here. Get another one. The transparency. Nope, that one does not. All right, let's switch gears here and go to another one. Let's put that back in place here. 110. Hope that'll have enough speed in it here to kind of fill in some of the blanks. Much better. So there we are. High contrast there. Let's come back in and hit some really good solid deep reds. And as stated earlier, a lot of variation here. Give them some really good looks at how this form can be broken up graphically. I might choose to be very aggressive, very simple. That's fine. Piece underneath here. Let's take it right through. Last but not least, last little flare down below here. Trailer. Make sure we sharpen that last spike up just a bit here. Not such a much better. Got it there. Little graphics on the windshield. Down below, graphics in the wheel form. Just representations. There we are. Let's put a high contrast black in there. And pen to work here. Let's kind of here we are. Let's see here. Let's start here. Let's sketch. All right. A little bit of high contrast in there. There she is. I wander back and forth between a lot of contrast, a lot of simplicity, and some boldness. Things added, and just keeping it that direct. I think there's no need to really fuss it up. It's a pretty interesting shape to begin with. So once we've got it started here, a little bit of red. And one more up front, just a touch. Light spear. There it is. Let's take that same, almost like a silver tone to bring this thing through here. Light, simple, light graphics. More of a silver tone. And here. See, number 7 gray. Contrast in this. green, and a little bit of high contrast black. And we've got it. Cover up with some of that breeding that's taking place here. Clean up just a bit. More so here. And again, number 5 up in place here, a little bit bolder. Very good. There she is. There's another little reference page here for some theme studies. Moving along here, we'll crank on another one and see what comes out of this. Very interesting. So let's go here with a bit of black. Again, follow that through. Corner. Now, staying in place here, and we've got it. Tuned in here in the rear quarter. So there's a little bit of mid-tone. Hey, Demetrius, how are you? Red and black be the only color and choice. Not really. I think they've kind of designated what that is going to do there, Demetrius. It was dialed in terms of once the shapes are down, we're going to work with red, blacks, whites, silvers, maybe a little complementary, a little bit of green dash here and there, but I think I'm going to leave that up to them in terms of what they want to take this thing. So, hey, by the way, it's good to have you on board, and I did receive your email about your sketches. I'm looking forward to seeing them. Due to the appointments with my wife that's been having the last few days, have not had a chance to look at them, but I will definitely look at them and get back with you as soon as possible, Demetrius, and I cannot thank you enough for coming on board today. Does that help to answer your question? It was more dictated from the actual individuals themselves. What they wanted to do with this thing as far as color schemes go, keeping it nice and simple. So let's go back after this thing. Get this real bold. Let's get this Well, there it is. Sure, a bit here. Right pestle, just kind of tune in so it doesn't get all flooded. What do you think so far, Demetrius? Is making sense for you? I'm just keeping them nice and simple, not a whole lot of melody here in terms of putting a lot of variation in theme. Just interesting, kind of straightforward stuff that they can kind of pick and choose from to get the work done here and get the image down. A little bit of tone back into this thing here again. Keep it from running a little bit. And back down and add a little bit more of this #1 gray, a little bolder here, almost representing maybe a silver of some sort. There we go. A little bolder. Horizon line coming through this thing, possibly. Up there. Rims in a little bit. Get some glass down in this thing. And there she is. It's a nice simple variation on theme here. So just trying to keep it very graphic in terms of simplicity here so it doesn't get too clouded up with a lot of, I'm really looking forward to seeing what their information is going to be as far as sponsorship goes and where they might place them. I'm trying very cautious of the fact that trying to leave some area open, obviously, to get this thing all squared away and very simple shapes to deal with here. So there we go. We're going to come back in. Let's a little bolder with this thing. Let's do this. Charcoal. There. Let's go color to color and see if that's going to work all right. Just a real light dividing line here to kind of separate these forms. Sort of a guide. Take it through. There we are. Yeah, let's turn this upside down for a bit. Shape to come through okay. This. Just a touch. Let's come back the other way now. Reverse this guy. Here, bit, fill in some of the blanks. Corner. Fill in. And graphics to work a little bit. Oh, there it is. Good deal. A bit of that light gray in there too. They kind of a nice little accent change. Push some of those shapes through, like either silver or white, either one of the two. Nice little pass. Get the thing to break just enough. There it is. We're home. There's another variation on theme there, gang. Again, let's just do a little bit of a variation change here. Um, let's, yeah, this is good. And let's pass here. Just notice something pretty ragged line here in this red accent piece here. Straightened up below here. That's better. Clean. And there's another variation on theme. So far, so good. I mean, what do you think here, Demetrius? Anything coming along here that you kind of notice? Yays or nays? It's a pretty restrictive paint scheme, but so many pieces and parts to kind of put together with this thing. We can wander all over the place. I'm trying to keep them real direct and simple, especially when you get into things like very solid approaches to graphics and nomenclature, sponsorship, taglines, promotional pieces, so it doesn't get too complicated for that team to work with here. Let's go back in and crank on another one here, and here it is. This guy all set up here. Good color there. Come back in there and get this real strong thrust here. Treat that one almost like an old 30s logo piece where I think these very strong strike lines that just pick up some real simple graphics on this thing. It almost has a period effect to it. Very simple graphics. There it is, a lot of airspace in there, which I think is fine. And once again, not to be redundant, but they can utilize that for a lot of sponsorship space. It lines up just a bit. Move on. That better here, and there it is. Some of this graphics here. And just for what it's worth, let's come back in again. Nice little bit of graphics on the glass. Some high contrast in here. And again, real kind of a real light strike of that gray going through this thing. Silver, it could be silver. They wanted to be so. Fine. And let's two here and bring that on through just a touch. There. And a little graphics underneath here. Let's see if I can find a pretty guys neutral. Be a 4. Let's try that. Man, there it is. Another little variation on the very simple, but at the same time, hope it gets the job done as far as putting the impact in this thing that we need to have. Oh, let me go here. Where are we? Black again. And there we are. started. Corners in place. And just get this guy. Well. Okay, let's put a bit of contrast in this thing now. Just a bit. Excuse me a moment. Pick up my nib on the floor here. That's the only thing that happens is have those nibs dry out. So thank you there. I just dropped that thing on the floor, and boy, they'll dry out in a hurry if we're not careful. So make sure we get that squared away. Let's get back to that pen and define some of these shapes a little bit better. Tighten them up a bit. And last but not least, with the reds. Let's get this guy down too. A little simple layer here. Just come back in here. A little bit of color. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's do this with these rims in red. Yeah, a little bit of high contrast in the glass here. And again, just a little bit, maybe a little bit more blush of some gray up here. Could be silver or whatever it might be. Just all that thrust forward. There we are. I think that's a pretty good roundup there, guys, for what we're after as far as concept goes, and putting some livery together with this thing. Very simple, but at the same time, pardon me, a lot to stretch with because there's so many variations on theme you can get into, and I don't want to complicate life in terms of putting too many pieces together that can kind of confuse the issue. But let me go back and just review where we are here. Started with this set. We'll go right down the line here. There was a first variation on theme in addition to the ones we started out the stream with, but the ones I worked on here today, graphically speaking, kind of collecting some color. I'm not so sure they want to go ahead with color collected together like that, but I mean the red against the charcoal against the silver if it goes that route. So there's one. Let's put them over here so that way. There's another variation, a little bit more fluid. Again, trying to keep that whole concept of going fluid to very sheer, and a combination of sheer and organic forms that they're dealing with for graphic or wrap. A very bold, high contrast piece. You could go almost silver black, and that could be an interesting photogenic piece for future reference. Again, back to simplicity. Forms themselves. And back to the next variation on theme here. A little bit more organic again, to kind of pick up the same character of the canopy piece. Same with this guy, but reversing back with a strong thrust line from rear to front. And last but not least, the one we just finished up. Again, a little bit more of the sheer side, again, the organic side. So I'm trying to balance it back and forth to give them some variation on theme. And I'm not sure when it's all said and done if this is going to be complete. They might come back and pick and choose some variations, some touches and pieces and so forth. And if that's the case, I'll come back later on another stream, maybe show you the final wrap up here. And one, by the way, before I end up that sequence, hold on a second, guys. Before I end up with that guy, I want to show you something here. We talked about putting the logo together initially, and I just want to bring you up to speed on where the logo is, real briefly, wrapping it all up. This was the sketch from a variety of studies I sent to them, like the top one, the right there. Which one, though? One, Demetrius, sorry about that. Top right, is that the last page? Let me put these aside from here. Was it this last page, top right? This guy? Is that it? That's interesting, if that's the one. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think I have to agree with you. I think it's so simple. It kind of conveys an old spirit of the 30s, like Indian cycles with those razor lines on it. And again, a lot of room for nomenclature and sponsorship. And like I think that I agree. I think that's got some presence to it. It's simple. It's got some directness. It looks like it's quick. So good call, Demetrius. Thank you so much for tuning in here with me. Always a pleasure to have you on board. And let me go back to this wrap up here. Some weeks ago, we sent down a variety of sketches, and they chose this guy right here. That was a theme sketch I did. I'm going to just close the show today, presentation with showing where we are with this graphic. So I took that variation and went into a little study here and did a line study of this thing just in black and white off the loose sketch, and just kind of enlarged it and kind of put some graphics together on it. It was okay, but the wheelbase was too long. So I went shortened it, and at the same time shortening it, I kind of put together some different flavors of some of the shapes in between here. So here we go. Went into a nice final line drawing, which was that, which kind of tuned it in a little bit, keeping it nice and clean. Again, almost conveying this E process in the actual forms of the cycle itself. So that was a master line drawing we work with. And then just very quickly, I did a series of color studies here. One was this, where we go back into this red, black, and gray, silver again with this to match the commentary on this. That's the speed bike that we just showed you for the livery studies on. And I thought that was interesting too. I thought for sure they'd go after that speed form, the land speed form, as a logo piece, but they were more of a character between sport bike and potential of going to a land speed form later on. So this is the result of that logo study. So they'll add probably e-current or something like that on it, or else a tagline. My task is just to deliver the graphics there. So there was one variation. There's another variation going to some of the green graphics to electrify it, or else some of then it would go to a blue, whatever they choose to do there. And then the last one I did was another variation on the reds and grays and some of the bike forms. But I think that could transfer nicely for them. They were happy with it. That's all that matters to me. And I don't mean that in a snide sense. I mean that very sincerely. What matters is you work with the client and they're happy with it, and they go back and forth with some adjustments, and you see some things done, and you deliver those goods based on their input, and it satisfies the need. That's marvelous. No need to conflict it at all. So that's it there, gang. And again, I want to thank you again, especially for your patience. This last week or two, again, it's been pretty demanding in terms of we had microphone problems, and I couldn't get that solved for a couple of days. And we finally figured out it was OBS loading up the system and making some updates that we didn't, but it didn't catch it. We had to unplug the mic and go through settings and get that all squared away. But it's working well today, and that's great. And then probably next week, I think if all goes well with this livery studies and logo pieces, we'll kind of shift gears and go into some neat stuff next week. For example, I might go back into some really empathic speed forms, some Bentley Speed 6. Bentley Blue Train piece, maybe a facelift or a contemporary version of that guy. So we'll start moving things around again, and maybe some landscape art and architecture. So stay with it. And again, thank you so much for tuning in, Demetrius. It's always, and as I said, don't forget, Demetrius, I've got your email, and because of the conflict of schedule over the last couple of days, I've not had a chance to look at them, but I promise you I will look at them, and we'll get back together with you and some conversation. And I want you to keep up the good work, man. You're doing some good stuff here, Demetrius. So thank you so much for being faithful here today. And when you have a moment, if you have some friends, pass them on to my my website at drcontrast.com, where the drawing programs are. That maybe they have some interest in that. And please drop me a note. Pass along the word, Demetrius, or whoever else is listening. Pass along the note that, boy, I really appreciate some email content in terms of what to do, what kind of things I can help you with and to work with. Be more than happy to do that. That's part of the whole process. Hey, Die Hard, how are you? Thanks for the show. I've been pretty quiet as I'm watching it work. Hey, what'd you think so far? Did it work pretty well there, Die Hard? Hopefully it kind of made some sense. I had to pick up from last couple of sessions with the mic problem we had, and man, that was a real an albatross around the neck. So, what did you think, Die Hard? Make sense for you? Thank you so much for tuning in. And last but not least, as I stated almost every time here, we'll do some variations on theme next week. Drop me a note if I can help you in any way. Be more than happy to do so. We'll get back to more consistent setup and schedule-wise. And last but not least, I'll sign off with this. Really interesting how it all begins to come together. And never forget to dare to remember to dare to be great, because you are. Thanks so much, gang. We look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. And before I close, once again, so appreciate your patience with me over the last few sessions. It's been a little bit tough with my wife's doctor's appointments and so forth, which is doing okay. And then the microphone problem just threw me off guard here on the last go around. So looking forward to seeing you next week. Have a great weekend. All the very best to you. And again, dare to be great. And we'll look forward to seeing you. Thanks again, gang. Take care. Bye-bye now.